Good morning, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm just going to set the scene very quickly and hand over to Kent. So if you're wondering why, I suppose there's two different mining houses represented here. We started this journey around supervisor competency and supervisor training quite independently and almost at the same time, and have confronted very much the same issues and been driven by the same issues on site. So we engaged with the same service provider, which is Bluefield Asset Management Services at the time. And they kind of joined us together, which we're both very keen to do in this development of this supervisor competency course. So I'll take a step sideways and let Ken set the scene.
Thanks, John. Obviously, we've already gone to the first slide. I was trying to get that back, but anyway. I was going to just warn people, there are some graphic photos in here, so yeah, just look away if you need to, but we'll move on. I guess I'll start to talk about why John and I are on this journey, and then John will go through a little bit further as to what it's made up of. So I guess what you can see on this slide here, so it shows a number of unwanted events. And these are events that have occurred at our sites. Quite serious events. At the end of the day, you can see there's been broken vertebrae, finger amputations, broken fingers, broken hands. And all these people showed up at our sites, went home injured to their family, their friends. This is what's happened. The common theme with all these is that a supervisor was present or a step-up supervisor was present and they knew how that work was being performed, and this is the outcome that we achieved. So, of course, something that we don't want. This next slide, so this one shows 4 different high potential incidents. So these high potential incidents, you can see the top left one, that was a pin ejection, narrowly missed a couple of people, could have seriously been injured. The top right one, that's a 2.2 tonne 830E strut that's swinging. It had 80 tonne of force when it hit that forklift. And you can see there by that photo, the technician had to step out of the way so he wasn't crushed by it. Bottom left, that's actually a stand under a dragline boom. So the dragline boom's lowered. In this scenario, we had 3 people working under that dragline boom. They were in scissor lifts. They were only a couple of 100 mil away from that dragline boom. They were uncomfortable. They had a chat with the supervisor that they were uncomfortable and they believed that boom was going to move. So what do you think happened? In this scenario, the supervisor changed out those people and put 2 apprentices and another tradesperson on that job. And that's the end result. The boom did move and these people were working directly under it, and the boom dropped and spat out that stand. Once again, no one was injured, but you can see the forces we're dealing with. And then the bottom right one, the one with the puller bar ejection. So once again, supervisor being right there and narrowly missed a couple of people. So in all these scenarios, we're extremely lucky we didn't have any fatal events and people. Talking about supervision, but I just really want to say as well, we're not just 100% reliant on supervision. We're mature enough to understand that these incidents happen due to numerous issues in our business. But at the end of the day, supervision is critical to making sure that we have a safe operation and productive operation. These next couple of photos. So, fatalities within the industry. So this is very close to my heart, one of these. Like it says there, 46% of our fatalities in coal mining in Australia is due to maintenance activities. So 46% is something we all need to remember. 26% of that is due to tyre maintenance within our sites and within our industry. If we have a look at the 3 photos there, so one is an underpan that's dropped, fatal event. The bottom one, bucket being repaired, fatal outcome. And the one in the middle is one that occurred at Bengalla. So 3rd of November 2018, where Quinton Moore lost his life. So that's one that's very close to me. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can that this doesn't happen again. So we really want to have a think about it for our sites. So if we have a think about, and this is between John's site and my site, but I'm sure this is pretty common across the industry for the other sites as well, what have we got internally for our maintenance supervision across the site? Realistically, you can be a good leco, a good fitter or a good diesel mechanic, and they're the people that we select. We put them through a few little packages on site. It'll be an open book exercise and open book examination, and 99% of the time they pass. But realistically, that's what we've got for our industry and on our sites. So if we have a look, what have we got from an industry perspective? Statutory positions, we've got mining engineering managers, open cut examiners, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers. So I guess the question is, from that perspective, why do we have statutory positions at open cut mines? We've got highly hazardous and complex tasks that we complete. And we just talked about the fatality rate that we see with maintenance across the industry. So I think one of the key questions, and what John will be going through as well, what have we got at our own sites in regards to determining competence of supervisors? And that's a question we've asked ourselves. If we have a look at OCEs, so something we're all familiar with from an open cut perspective, to become an OCE, you need to actually go through qualifications. So at least a Cert 4 in surface coal. You need to have 3 years practical mining experience. You need the 6 months in actually leading a team. You need the emergency preparedness qualification. And then we all know you sit through a written and you sit through an oral examination by your peers. So it's quite an extensive process. And then after that, you go through the company process. So it's quite structured there. But once again, like we just talked about, 46% of fatalities are in that maintenance space. So what are we doing to make sure that we're doing everything we can to send our people home safely? I'll hand over to John now, because that's just set the scene a little bit of the conversation, and John will go through the process of what we've followed.
Thanks, Kent. So the good news out of, I suppose, the very compelling story that Kent's given us, and this is the third time I've presented this externally and numerous times internally, and watching those photos, and I know it still has an effect to know that a number of those events happened on my watch. Is on the job, present, paperwork signed, but failing to recognise that things weren't going to plan or weren't going right, and failing to act. And that's a real challenging. Where did this whole concept come from of implementing a supervisor competency course modelled off the OCE type course? It came from that compelling platform. Industry in New South Wales. So this is effectively what Bengalla and this is predominantly at Bulga. This happened when I was the engineering manager there. I've only just recently moved to HVO, and not less than 3 weeks ago we had a very similar injury, finger between grouser plates, finger always loses, with a supervisor watching that job. Didn't recognise tradesman, apprentice and supervisor. Nobody recognised that, and thankfully the young apprentice is okay, but could have been far worse. So this platform is compelling in here. So we started working through developing this non-mining supervisor competency program. So look, what were the goals of the program? Really to create this benchmark training course for developing and confirming the non-mining supervisor competency. So we use non-mining because when we started to unpack this, we were thinking, you know, I'm a maintenance guy and I'm just thinking this is all about maintenance, but we started to learn what an environmental coordinator does. Now I was quite surprised at the amount of maintenance activity an environmental coordinator is supervising. They're supervising dozer push, they're supervising dozer maintenance, they're supervising crane work, standing dead trees for rehab, etc. They're coming from a non-mining and a non-maintenance background, overseeing a lot of that work. So we've actually had some environmental personnel in those roles also take on this course and get some very positive feedback about it. So look, create that benchmark training course, have it recognised as an internal company standard for supervisor training. This is within the Glencore group, and also now that I've moved to HVO, certainly one of my first actions has been get the schedule out, start setting the scene with my supervisors, which is quite challenging when they start to understand what we're asking them to do here. And look, through osmosis and through events like this, make it become an informal standard within the New South Wales mining industry. Now, obviously, we're engaged with a service provider. That is one option. The other option is to do nothing, of course. We challenge you that that's probably not the best option. And another option, of course, is to just go away and think about what you're doing with respect to your supervisor competency. Because as Ken has set the scene, currently, many times it's an open sort of question exam. If you get a wrong answer, you just scribble it out, write the right answer down. Some sites I'm aware of, it's happened on my watch, the answer sheet is handed out with a question sheet. Just scribble the answers down and we have, hey presto, we have a supervisor. I think we all know that's not working. And I like to personalise these examples, so I'm hoping everybody will be on a plane heading to some holiday destination in the next 12 months or so. Imagine you're sitting there thinking, I wonder if that pilot got an open book exam and the answer sheet was given to him and he managed to cross the wrong answers out, put the right ones down. Was it flaps up or flaps down on landing? Can't quite remember. Yeah, so, and unfortunately, in many sites, and I'm not immune to this, that's where we were with supervisor competency in the maintenance arena. Well, it was Bluefield Asset Management Services at the time, it's now Deloitte Consulting, and said, look, we want to develop a supervisor maintenance competency course based around the OCE type course, which is a relatively formal qualification, a 3-hour written exam, and an oral exam. Now, obviously I'm talking to a lot of people in the room who have been through this sort of process to get a statutory engineering type ticket, but for a maintenance supervisor, you ask your maintenance supervisor, step-up supervisor, when's the last time you did a 3-hour written exam? Some of them have never done a 3-hour written exam. So this has been quite a challenging space, and I'll show you the stats and where we're up to with this course so far. So look, we worked with Bluefield to create a practical leadership training course. We really wanted to try and become an industry standard, but for us, it's about getting our own houses in order. We're very conscious that every mining house and Glencore and Bengalla are no different, have got their own internal leadership development courses. They've got external courses, frontline leadership that you can engage with. We wanted this to be complementary to those and make sense within that framework. And as I said, based upon sort of the OCE style of course, the OCE style of examination. So really it focuses heavily initially on legal obligations and expectations. That's a slog of a module to wade through legislation relevant to a mining supervisor. A lot of the guys have been through it, they've been through the courses that are available, it's been touched upon, but this really takes them in depth. And a lot of examples about where the statutory engineers, where are the people like you guys in the room coming from when you want incidents done, when you're citing legislation, when there's scene preservation applied. A lot of that the supervisors just really aren't across. They get very frustrated when they don't understand why they can't get their gear back to work because an engineer's on the end of the phone saying you can't. So this has really helped set the scene for those guys. So we look some very basic asset management fundamentals, which has really helped incident investigation. It helped root cause on failures. It's helped again that engagement with engineers to understand so supervisors from. Look, a whole lot of just some really basic fundamental leadership concepts. And we're very conscious of a lot of courses around there and a lot of information out there in the industry now, but just around operational performance and people management. At the time we were kicking this off in sort of May 2020, we're very conscious in a COVID world. If we remember those days, thankfully they seem to be hopefully behind us. But we needed something that could be done through remote learning, a webinar platform, because at that stage it was very hard and we weren't sure where we were going to get people into a classroom together. It did had an element of on-site coaching, and that's mentoring and coaching to hook the students up or the supervisors up with a mentor, and that's been very powerful. And a whole lot of exam preparation webinars, so the guys had some fairly confident about getting those examination skills back or developing those examination skills often for the first time. So these are the 7 learning identified outcomes. Look, I won't read through every single one of those, but it certainly touched on them. But certainly, basis of really that fundamental concept when you're moving into a leadership role. And as Kent said, we've taken somebody who's a very skilled fitter, very skilled tradesman, electrician, and we've thrown them into a leadership role with minimal development. And then we're asking them to basically use a set of Often, the step-up supervisor role is the hardest role on a mine site, in my opinion, certainly in maintenance. We're asking them to have a foot in two camps, sometimes be part of the team, sometimes be leading the team. And it's an incredibly difficult position we put our people in at times, again, without giving them a lot of skills and a lot of development. Look, again, to understand where the legal and statutory obligations are of a supervisor. Hopefully everybody in the room is considered appointing their supervisors. They're appointed, to their position, and they're given those basics understanding of their obligations, and that's tested through some sort of competency program, because that's the ideal. Have obviously a reasonable level of technical and certainly operational decision making. We ask our supervisors to make decisions all the time, and we want them to be able to feel confident and accountable and responsible for making those decisions, not having to run everything up the tree. That whole concept of decentralised command. Obviously being positive and proactive, getting those frontline leadership roles done, and demonstrating the expected behaviour. Unfortunately, prior to this course being set off, I've had to stand down a number of supervisors, remove a couple of them from their roles, because they certainly weren't demonstrating the required behaviours. Basic things like getting isolation right. I've had supervisors tell me, I'm a supervisor, isolation doesn't apply to me. I don't have to put my locks on when I duck under that grader and have a look at something. There's some difficult conversations have had to ensure out of those sort of